Hey everyone, Once Bitten here. So I'm posting an introductory video for a campaign I'm doing with Malorian and Anthony from the Sustainable Center. We're calling it the Bretonnia campaign 2013. Basically, all three of us play Bretonnia. We do not live near each other, so we designed some campaign rules that would allow us to play local players and yet compete against each other. So here's how the campaign is set up, and then I'll put this in a playlist, and if you want to follow the campaign, all the games for it I will have in the playlist in order. So the objective of the campaign is to earn all 13 virtues in the Bretonnian Army book. If you look at the book, there's actually 14 there, but one of them has been discontinued as per 8th edition. So there's 13 valid virtues. For the campaign, you can play one game every other week to count towards the campaign. You have to earn a virtue, you have to actually take the virtue in the game, which means you have to pay for it. You can take up to 3 virtues in any given game, and you can only put 1 virtue per character. So if you take 3, that means you have to have at least three different knight characters, which may or may not be a competitive thing to do. You also have to customize your list based on the virtues you take, which is another problem with taking multiple virtues. You have to accomplish objectives for each virtue, and then if you do those things, your character still has to survive the game, or at least you have to win it. And I guess it's in theory you could take 3 virtues and win one of them and not win the other 2 and have to try again the next game you play. So I thought I'd go through the 13 virtues, tell you briefly what they are, what the tax is for them, and what the objectives requirement is for them. So, Virtue of the Penitent. The knight's stubborn, but he can't join any units, take any magic items, or ride a Pegasus or a Hippogriff. And it's 40 points. For those restrictions, you can pay 40 points for that. It is absolutely, it's never taken. And that's one of the reasons why we're doing the campaign, is because it's kind of forcing us to take things that aren't usually taken. We didn't put any additional taxes on this one because we felt that the virtue itself was just so bad. The objective is the character cannot break from combat. So virtue number 2, the virtue of Knightly Temper. This is kind of like the Red Fury. For every successful wound before saves, gives you an extra attack, and you can't take a magic weapon. So for the tax on that, we said he has to join a Knight of the Realm unit, cannot leave that unit, and must be the only character in that unit. And for the objective, during the game, you have to do 3 or 4 wounds on a charge. And so if you're a hero level character, you do 3 wounds. If you're a lord level character, you have to do 4 wounds. And you don't have to do all those wounds on the same charge, just throughout the game. Next virtue, Virtue of Heroism. This one is so awesome. For 40 points, you get Heroic Killing Blow. I take it in every list I have when I get to design my own list. Yeah, it's just awesome. The tax for this is there are no trebuchets in the army. The theory being, if somebody has monsters, you have to go kill it yourself. You can't just drop a rock on its head. And for the objective, you have to actually get Heroic Killing Blow on something. And we said there has to be something that doesn't have that regular Killing Blow would not kill. So the virtue of Stoicism. Basically, you're like an extra battle standard bearer, except for it only affects you and your unit. So basically, you can re-roll failed break tests, but you cannot take Crown of Command in the whole army. And then the objective is the unit with this character cannot break from combat. Virtue of the Ideal. This is another ridiculous one in my opinion. The knight has +2 weapon skill, +1 initiative, and +1 attack. And for that, all friendly units within 6 inches have -1 leadership. I wouldn't take that on a character for free, but for that awesome benefit, you can pay 35 points. The tax that we came up with is you're not allowed a level 4 spellcaster. And the objective is you must always issue and accept challenges, and you have to be in at least 1 challenge. Virtue of the Impetuous Knight. The knight and the unit he's in get +d6 to the first charge they declare. The tax is you have to put him in a knight errant unit, and then you always have to charge. You can't take your Impetuous test and try not to charge. Now, to be clear, you don't have to always charge. It's just that if you don't always charge, you can't earn the virtue. Virtue of Audacity. I've taken this before. Sometimes I'll take it instead of Heroic Killing Blow. But basically, against enemies with higher strength, you get to re-roll hits and wounds. So it's a way of putting wounds on a monster, but usually you're not going to kill it in 1 round of combat. The tax is this character has to join Questy Knight unit, because it just kind of seems that questing knights are supposed to be monster killers. And then the objective is that the character or the unit he's in has to kill a character or a monster. And we said they have to kill him through wounds, not by breaking him and running him down. Virtue of Duty. This was a huge one in 7th edition, and you really don't see it much in 8th edition. But for 30 points, you kind of get a war banner. The stipulation is the general has to be alive, but as long as he is alive, you get +1 combat res. The tax is this character has to go in the general's unit, and then the objective is the general has to stay alive through the whole game. So to get this virtue, not only does your character have to stay alive, but the general does as well. Or unless you win the game, and then you just have the general survive. Virtue of the Joust. The knight may reroll failed rolls to hit when charging with a lance. So the tax for this, we thought it'd be fun to say there can't be any peasants in the army. It has to be basically a jousting fest. And the objective is you have to charge and break a cavalry unit. And so I think my fear with this one is if I take this in a list for a game, what if I face an opponent that doesn't have a cavalry unit? So I might, this might definitely be one where I try to take 3 virtues in it in case this one just doesn't have a chance. Next is Virtue of Confidence. The knight must always issue and accept challenges, but in a challenge he can reroll hits and wounds. The tax is interesting. You have to take the gauntlet of the duel, and what that means is your opponent cannot refuse a challenge. They can still decide who accepts it, but they can't outright refuse it. And then the objective is you have to kill a character in a challenge. And I think this is going to be the most difficult one to accomplish, because I think so many characters are just so survivable. Yeah, my prediction is that all 3 of us will struggle to earn this virtue. Then they have the Virtue of Noble Disdain. The knight hates all units that have any kind of shooting attack, and the unit he's in never has to take a panic test from shooting. The tax is you can't take any shooting in your whole army. That includes mounted yeomen, trebuchets, whatever. And the objective is you have to kill at least 1 missile or war machine unit. Virtue of Purity. The knight starts with a blessing regardless of whether or not they pray, and that blessing is always 5+. The tax is you cannot pray for a blessing. I think this is a brutal tax. I know that we have great armor saves in the army, but having that ward save on the knights is huge. So there's going to be a game where we can't do that, and the objective is we have to win the game. Yeah, that's rough. And then Virtue of Empathy. So this is kind of a weird one, because you actually have to feel the knight on foot. And so for a worse armor save, you have the privilege of paying some points to get it. The benefit is that peasants within 12 inches can use his leadership. So in some ways, it's like having 2 generals on the board. And so that can be interesting. I'm probably going to steal a chapter from Mobius Primal, who has a YouTube channel that has an army that he fields this all the time, and I think he does pretty well with it. The tax for this is you have to have more points in peasants than in knights for your army, and the objective is you have to at least win 1 combat involving peasants, which I thought was kind of funny. So I'm going to end it with that. I'm trying to keep this as brief as possible, but those are the 13 virtues, their descriptions, the taxes, and the objectives. And so between me, Malorian, and Anthony, the first one to earn all 13 virtues wins the campaign. So yeah, like I said, this will be in a playlist, and the games for the campaign will be in it as well, so you can watch them straight through as soon as they're done. And hope it's enjoyable, and I hope you enjoy it.